Good evening from Dallas, Texas, boomtown America, but also a city living in the shadow of history. A week ago, it looked as if Texas, a Republican bedrock, might even fall to Hillary Clinton. Such were the woes of her rival. But following the FBI intervention, Trump is back. One poll even puts him ahead, and he's playing catch-up fast in key swing states. Let us be clear. According to the bookies, there is now a 1 in 4 chance that the most improbable, abrasive and divisive candidate for the most powerful job on earth could be the next president of the United States next week. Plus, how cyberspace has played a crucial role in this bizarre election. This program sees evidence that could link Russian hackers to the leak of stolen Democratic Party emails. And whether by race, gender or class, this election has exposed the divisions of the United States. I spent some time in Texas, where even the roadies are divided by color and by party.
Also on tonight's program, Iraqi forces say they've entered the eastern fringes of Mosul after 2.5 years of Islamic State occupation. And we travel with 2 sisters from El Salvador, desperate to be reunited with their mother in America before Donald Trump has a chance to build a wall to keep them out.
No he tenido el cariño de mi madre y por eso he estado muy triste. La extrañé mucho.
No one is making any predictions. A week from Election Day, the outcome is far too close to call. Some polls now are virtually tied. It is still not clear exactly how the FBI's email bombshell has affected Hillary Clinton's standing. But what is clear is that Donald Trump is gaining ground on her anyway, in a campaign still riddled with bitter divisions and attacks. And the role of Russia in the US election race is back under scrutiny. Once again, fact seems stranger than fiction. Kylie Morris is in Phoenix, Arizona, where the Clinton camp is heading tomorrow. Kylie, over to you.
Well, Matt, many a week ago were predicting that there was no way, really, that Hillary Clinton could make it all the way through to Election Day with the 7-point lead nationally that she was enjoying then. Fast forward to now, and few would have predicted that extraordinary national poll that you mentioned. Admittedly, it's only one poll, but it does give Donald Trump a 1-point lead. Only 1 point, but a lead nevertheless. It's impossible to know how much of that is down to the FBI email saga. Donald Trump is under assault as well today, newly, over his links to Russia, over his advisors' alleged links to the Kremlin, over his own financial dealings there. But the problem is that these are kind of big investigative questions, and there's no chance that voters will have solid answers on them before the election day itself. So it's a kind of swirling cloud of unknowingness. What's happening for each of the candidates is that Hillary Clinton is traveling around. She's going back to battleground states. She's got 3 rallies in Florida today. She's sending her advocates out, Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, to try to hold the firewall that should keep her safe and ideally protect a victory, or at least achieve a victory for her. Donald Trump, meanwhile, has to flip a red state, flip a blue state, a Democratic state, a state that normally chooses the Democratic candidate, and turn it red, turn it into a Republican state. So he is pushing on that level, going to places that he hasn't visited before, for example, New Mexico. So what I think is happening here is, regardless really of who ultimately wins, it will be an incredibly hard-fought victory. In these final frenzied days, America's political landscape is shifting at speed. Both candidates are crisscrossing the country to secure a win, amid a flurry of criticism that both have in their own way imperiled national security. Clinton by sending classified information on her private email server, Trump by getting too close to Russia. Both deny the accusations, but they're playing out regardless in a destructive, nihilistic campaign that moved one former state governor on American television today to read a passage from George Orwell's 1984.
The rage that one felt was an abstract, undirected emotion which could be switched from one object to another like the flame of a blow lamp.
Halloween has never felt so apt. On her plane last night, Hillary Clinton let her campaign mask slip after days of damage control. But according to a new national poll out today, her support has slipped so far, Donald Trump now has the lead. Wow, he tweeted, now leading an ABC Washington Post poll 46-45, gone up 12 points in 2 weeks, mostly before the crooked Hillary blow-up.
The momentum is on our side. The latest polls have Donald Trump leading nationwide in the race for President of the United States.
Donald Trump is riding the momentum granted him by the FBI director's public declaration that they were taking another look at emails connected to Hillary Clinton's use of a private server when she was Secretary of State. But reports that the director refused to disclose publicly alleged links between the Trump campaign and Russia because it was too close to the election has rubbed salt into her campaign's wounds.
The FBI has been frustratingly non-committal, and they don't say a thing when it comes to Donald Trump and investigations against him. Yet when it comes to Hillary Clinton, for some reason, they're more than happy to talk.
There are leaks too from the Bureau that suggest it's made a preliminary inquiry into the business connections of former Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort, who worked extensively in the Ukraine and Russia. No longer with the campaign, Mr. Manafort says none of it is true. As for Donald Trump, he's not talking Russia. At a rally in Pennsylvania today, he found policy, or at least anti-policy, delivering a takedown of President Obama's Affordable Health Care Act.
If we don't repeal and replace Obamacare, we will destroy American health care forever. It's one of the single most important reasons why we must win on November 8th. We must win.
And now that possibility feels closer than ever.
Now, and yet another twist after Friday's potentially game-changing FBI revelation that they were looking again into Hillary Clinton's emails. This program has seen new evidence that Russia, yes, Russia could be linked to emails hacked earlier in the year from top Democratic Party officials, revealing deep rifts between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders during their nomination battles. Democrats are urging the FBI to investigate allegations of Russian collusion with Donald Trump's campaign, while accusing Moscow of meddling in the US election. We've seen evidence that could link Russian hackers to the leaking of those stolen emails. Here's Jeff White.
Hillary Clinton's presidential ambitions have an Achilles heel. Emails lost, found, hacked. Her use of a private email server threatens to derail her campaign. But it's her staff's messages that seem to be in the sights of Russian hackers. Thousands were leaked on this website. It claims to be the work of American patriots, but tonight we expose the hidden Russian links behind this site.
More at this hour about an alleged Russian hack attack.
The Russian government is again denying any involvement in the hacking of the Democratic National Committee.
In June, the Democratic National Committee revealed the hacking of thousands of staff emails. Those messages exposed the bitter infighting in the Democrats' leadership battle.
So great to have
Partisan mails from the DNC's chairwoman cost her job. US security chiefs blamed the Russian government.
Going after U.S. political organizations is a new aggressive spin on the political cycle.
Strenuously denied by the Russians.
Well, I don't want to use four-letter words.
But hacking the emails was just the first part of the operation. The second was publishing them. Who did that? Yes, they appeared on WikiLeaks, but it seems a little-known site called DC Leaks beat them to it. So who's behind DC Leaks? This site claims it was launched by American hacktivists who respect and appreciate freedom of speech. But evidence we've seen casts considerable doubt on those claims. In fact, this website has disturbing links to an online network used by Russian hackers. Experts believe it's nothing more than an outlet for their stolen data. The latest DNC hacks began in April. The DC Leaks site was registered on the 19th, almost certainly before anyone but the hackers knew what was going on. Then it lay dormant until June 8th, again several days before the hacking was publicly disclosed. Since then, it's been leaking the emails of key Clinton staffers and supporters, including the personal account of former Secretary of State Colin Powell. Experts say the website's timing is just too much of a coincidence.
We have leaked content obtained through the same type of attack mechanisms we've seen Russian hackers use elsewhere. And then we have a pattern of registration in terms of the way that the website was set up and where it was registered and how it was registered that matches other patterns of Russian hacks.
So what do we know about the site itself? far from being born in the USA, it was registered with a small internet company in Romania. So small, in fact, that DC Leaks is one of only a few hundred websites they've registered on that computer server. What are the others? Well, several have been used in previous hacking campaigns attributed to Russia. The Romanian internet company told us they only handled the website's names, not their content or operation. DC Leaks didn't respond to us. The Russian embassy again stressed to us the lack of evidence provided by their American accusers.
To block, disrupt and neutralize.
State hacking is now centre stage. Chancellor Philip Hammond today outlined a new cybersecurity strategy. As experts warn, Russia sees politics as a new online battleground.
I think that we shouldn't be indifferent to this political activity because it does have a long-term aim. The long-term aim is to strengthen Russia and weaken the Western alliance. The Western alliance is absolutely crucial to our security and to our confidence in each other. It's designed to undermine trust.
Trust, it seems, in short supply. The Democrats are now calling on the FBI to investigate Donald Trump's links to Russia. In the end, what's new isn't the cyber attacks, it's the increasing brazenness with which it's being thrown online for all to see.
Jeff White. Oh, for those good old-fashioned days when he actually had to break into an office, i.e. the Watergate scandal, in order to steal secrets of the Democratic Party. Well, alongside claims of Kremlin meddling in the US election, there's also been a spat today between Russians and the British, involving a stark warning from no one less important than the head of MI5, Andrew Parker. Our chief correspondent, Alex Thompson, is in Moscow. Alex, what's going on?
Yes, Matt, and I speak to you from a country, just to set the mood a little, in which a recent poll suggested more than half of Russians think there will be a nuclear confrontation with the West. So that's the background mood that's going on in this vast country. Yes, Andrew Parker. Now, he's the incumbent Director General of MI5. It's the first time that such a person has given an interview in 107 years, and he's given it to The Guardian, so sending a signal there. What he's got to say, here's the key quote, and I'll give this to you verbatim. Russia increasingly seems to define itself by opposition to the West and seems to act accordingly, and we see this on the ground, he says, in the Ukraine and in Syria. Well, as you can imagine, that has not gone down well in Russia. It hasn't gone down well in London either. Have a look at this. This is a tweet put up by the Russian embassy this afternoon. Sober words, you can read them for yourselves, no doubt, saying that they lament the fact that the boss of MI5 has got caught up, as they see it, in his own propaganda. But then look at the graphics. The seminal 1966 movie, no less. The Russians are coming. The Russians are coming. The plot, incidentally, a Russian-Soviet submarine goes aground on the shores of the eastern United States, and the crew have to pretend they're Norwegians so as not to intimidate the Americans into thinking the Russians are coming. So a bit of humour and a bit of sobriety in that message. It's very much sober here in Moscow. The key spokesman for the Kremlin saying quite simply, Dmitry Peskov, these are unfounded, ungrounded allegations, have no basis in reality, and if you've got some proof, show it to us, then we'll take it seriously. Many in the West will look at recent events, of course, in recent years in Georgia and in Ukraine, and then right now in Syria generally, East Aleppo particularly, and say they have cause to question what Russia is doing. Back to you.
Alex in Moscow, thank you very much indeed. Well, joining me now here on the roof in Dallas is Betty Ritchie. She's a member of the Democratic National Committee and a superdelegate. Welcome to the programme. First of all, your reaction to these accusations of Russian cyber meddling in your party, in the Democratic National Party?
Well, first I want to thank you for having me on, and also welcome to Dallas. Well, my thoughts are terrible. It is awful. The very idea that Russia would interfere with us in our elections, it makes me think that the only reason is he's afraid of Hillary Clinton.
But you can't pin this on Donald Trump, can you?
Oh, yes.
How?
Well, he says he's such a good friend of Putin's. And he not only did that, but he asked publicly for Russia to come into and steal the emails.
But at the same time, I know he says that he's a friend of Putin's, and sometimes he says he doesn't really know Putin. He is not responsible for these leaks. He's not responsible for the cyber hacking.
No, it's the Russians.
Okay.
Totally.
So, I mean, but no one is talking about the Russians in this country as much as they're talking about your candidate's emails. That's really hurt her, hasn't it?
Well, I think that she's going to win. I think that people understand that this is much to do about, nothing truthfully, because these are not her emails.
But if it was not much to do about nothing, why would the FBI director have even sent this letter? I mean, clearly there's something there that he's interested in.
That's debatable. I think that a lot of pressure was put on him. Why, I don't know, but I find it very interesting that he is not investigating the Russians, but investigating someone who is close to Hillary. And he did not ever say that there was anything of any substance. And why he chose this time to do that is very interesting.
Well, that's what the whole country's debating at the moment. But I mean, he was your hero just a few months ago when he acquitted, well, not acquitted, when he basically declared that Hillary Clinton is not criminally liable for her private email server. He was a hero in Democratic ranks, and now he's a villain.
Well,
you can't have it both ways.
Well, of course, the Republicans are saying the same thing. It depends on which shoe is on. But I don't think we ever thought he was a hero.
But Betty, isn't the big question this, that the American public understandably hates the prospect of a president of the United States, also called Clinton, under investigation while in the Oval Office?
Well, I think that they have not looked at some of the facts, and I think that they should understand that she is the most qualified person that we have ever had run for president of the United States.
But if you're qualified and you're under investigation and your staff is tied up in subpoenas, as happened under her husband, Bill Clinton, that is bad for government, it's bad for America.
Well, I choose to differ. I think that these emails have not proved anything. In other words, the FBI even said there was nothing there.
Okay. Betty Ritchie, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Now, we'll be back later to follow the journey of two young sisters from El Salvador, desperate to make it across the US border in case Donald Trump builds that wall. And here in Texas, we'll be discussing the state of the race in a nation that seems more divided than ever before.
Now, peace talks in the Syrian city of Aleppo are on hold indefinitely, Russia has declared, claiming rebels backed by the West are attacking civilians. Moscow is rapidly strengthening its military arsenal, warning airstrikes on Aleppo could resume. Krishnan Gurumurthy is travelling from the Syrian capital Damascus to Aleppo. Tonight he's in Homs and he sent us this update from there.
Tonight we've stopped in the devastated old city of Homs, halfway between Damascus and Aleppo, where the war is intensifying. And perhaps strangely, the Syrian government holds Homs up as a possible example of what could happen in Aleppo, because for 3 years the rebels held out here until they agreed to leave. Now, this was before the Russians were involved in this war, but Homs today is a curious mixture of completely flattened and devastated areas like this and a functioning city just half a mile in that direction over there. And the government says hundreds of thousands of people have returned to the city and to the surrounding area, and that's what they want to happen in Aleppo. Now, in that part of the country, the fighting has intensified significantly over the last 3 days. The rebels have taken advantage, it seems, of a pause in the Russian bombing. But we now find ourselves in a situation where both sides in this war are being accused of possible war crimes by the United Nations and organisations like Amnesty International. The rebels are trying to link up their people in the east of Aleppo with their forces in the countryside outside, and they have launched offensives into the west side of that city on government-held areas. They have killed many people with mortar fire. The numbers are disputed inevitably. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which is a British-based organisation, has logged 48 deaths on the government side. The government says it's much more than that, around 120. Now, there is a propaganda war going on in Aleppo as well, and these images today have been released from the opposition side, claiming to show rebel fighters in what was government-held parts of Aleppo. At the same time, images have appeared from the other side. This video, broadcast on Russian television, purports to show the victims of rebel shelling. In terms of the bigger picture, there's no doubt the Syrian government intends to retake Aleppo by force in the near future, perhaps taking advantage of this window in which there is no real power in the White House. The Kremlin today denied British reports that Russia's about to launch a major air assault on the rebels in eastern Aleppo. But remember, that aircraft carrier is steaming to the region, and last week Russian sources told Channel 4 News that they were going there to take part in the battle for that city. Today, the Russian defense minister also said that the peace talks are off for the foreseeable future.
Christian reporting from Homs. Well, in Iraq, government forces claim the battle to liberate Mosul has effectively begun, saying they've now entered the city for the first time since so-called Islamic State overran it more than 2 years ago. Officials said the army had now reached the edge of the city itself, which is home to 1.5 million people. Under a heavy bombardment by artillery and airstrikes, residents said the militants had resorted to street fighting in response. Paul McNamara has the latest.
It's first light. And that isn't just a bomb blast, but the starting pistol for a significant moment in the war with the Islamic State group. After 2 years of impotence and 2 weeks of fighting in the surrounding villages, Iraqi troops are finally moving into the city of Mosul. Within hours, special forces had retaken the state TV building on the eastern fringes of the city, a symbolic capture for a proud general.
We are in control of Mosul's TV station, which is part of the Al-Quds neighborhood. This means we have entered Mosul city and its neighborhoods. God willing, Mosul will be liberated.
The city and its surrounding areas fell to IS more than 2 years ago and remains the last major urban stronghold in Iraq. This morning, special forces broke through to the neighborhood of Gogjali. Shortly afterwards, there were reports of fighting on the streets of Al-Quds, and by early afternoon, Iraqi forces announced they had entered Jayat al-Mufti. As Iraqi TV stations excitedly live-streamed pictures from the front line, news of more atrocities from the past few days filtered through. More than 40 former soldiers living in Mosul were killed by IS on Saturday, their butchered bodies thrown into the Tigris River, according to the UN. About 50,000 Iraqi troops, Kurdish fighters, Sunni Arab tribesmen and Shia militiamen are involved in this offensive, while US bombers provide their eyes in the sky. Their joint message is simple.
If Daesh stand and fight, they're going to be killed. There's no question about that. If they run, they'll either be captured or killed. They're not going to be allowed to escape.
Thousands of civilians continue to flee Mosul today, as this campaign entered a new phase of urban warfare, where battles are fought street by street and house by house. In a city of 1.5 million people, there is no knowing how many more weeks or months that fight may take, or how many more innocent lives will be changed forever or lost.
Paul McNamara there. Well, now, if you think the US election is fractious, the UKIP leadership contest is really giving it a run for its money. While we've been on air, the contenders still in the race have been holding hustings in Westminster. And our political correspondent, Michael Crick, is there. Michael, how's it been?
Well, Kathy, UKIP's efforts to elect a successor to Nigel Farage over the last few months have been totally jinxed. Initially, you'll recall, they had an election. The front-runner, Stephen Wolfe, dropped out because his nomination form wasn't in on time. Then they elected Diane James. She stood down after just 18 days as leader. Then Stephen Wolfe was involved in an altercation, possibly a punch-up, with a fellow MEP in the European Parliament. And Mr. Wolfe defected to the Tories. This rerun initially had 8 candidates. We're now down to 4 who are holding their hustings tonight. But already in this contest, the issue of capital punishment has arisen after Paul Nuttall has suggested that perhaps the British public should be given a referendum on the issue. Well, earlier I asked 3 of the contenders here tonight what they thought about capital punishment.
No, I don't want to bring back the death penalty. Absolutely not. It doesn't work. I've always been opposed to it, and I don't think I'm ever going to change my mind.
Yeah, no, I think we need a proper, rigorous legal system of punishment, but I think the capital punishment is a kind of red herring.
Whereas you would hang the worst kind of murderers.
Look, it's not UKIP policy.
But you yourself.
But my own personal view is I believe in the death penalty for the killers of children.
Well, the 4 contenders have just started their opening statements. Suzanne Evans told the audience here tonight, about 200 people, that she went to a comprehensive school herself, but that she would like to see a grammar school in every town in the country. This is the first of 4 hustings they'll be holding over the next 10 days, and the voting will carry on until the 28th of November, The two front runners are reckoned to be Paul Nuttall, he's probably the favourite right now from Liverpool, and Suzanne Evans, the former deputy leader who was suspended over the summer because of alleged disloyalty, but she's now back in the party.
And I'm sure you'll be following every twist and turn. Michael, thank you very much. Campaigners say they may seek a judicial review on the government's decision not to hold a public inquiry into the so-called Battle of Orgreave. The Home Secretary Amber Rudd has announced a review into clashes between police and miners during the 1984 strike is not in the public interest. She caused further outrage today by failing to show up to an urgent question in the Commons about her decision. The Orgreave Truth and Justice campaign says the gloves are now off.
Well, there's no doubt it is a setback, but we're used to setbacks, so it's about what is Plan B, what is Plan C, and what is Plan D. We're nowhere near the end of the road with this.
It's a weird state of affairs when people have got to die to get some sort of justice. Does she want to put a number on it? 1 person, 2 person, 3 people? How many? How many people have to die before you get justice in this country?
Well, let's return to our top story now and back to Matt in Texas. Matt.
Thanks, Kathy. Well, the biggest issue of this election, scandals aside, has arguably been immigration. Donald Trump's wall to keep out Mexicans who he's variously described as rapists and criminals, conceding that some of them are good people. That kind of angry rhetoric has led to a surge in the number of Latin Americans desperate to cross the border before next week, in case Trump builds that wall. Our Latin America correspondent Guillermo Galdes has followed 2 young sisters from El Salvador as they make the dangerous and illegal journey to the US border, searching for the mother that they last saw years ago.
We take anybody, come on in, anybody, just come on in. Not anymore. They're bringing crime, they're rapists. 2 million people, criminal aliens. Day 1, my first hour in office, those people are gone. We will begin working on an impenetrable, physical, tall, powerful, beautiful southern border wall.
No, ya mañana sale a las 4 de la mañana. Ojalá que el coyote sea responsable.
It's Brenda and Antonio's last day together. The couple have been going out for over 3 years.
Su mamá lo conoce.
Hable de otra cosa mejor.
And for Brenda's 12-year-old sister Fatima, it's the last day of her own life too. Neither of them have seen their mum since she left their home in El Salvador for the US nearly 4 years ago. Now they are planning on joining her.
Ella salió y yo le decía, mami, no te vayas. Y ella me dijo que se tenía que ir. La extrañé mucho.
But there is a long, dangerous and illegal journey ahead of them. One that involves crossing lands controlled by drug cartels. El Salvador is one of the most violent nations in the world. This violence is fueling a mass exodus, draining towns across the country of its future.
Porque todas las personas que se van huyendo de cosas pues peligrosas, porque si uno estuviera bien en su país, ¿a quién le gustaría dejar su patria?
It's Fatima's last day at school.
Buenos días. Permiso, jóvenes.
But no one knows because she cannot tell anyone about her trip.
¿Son de ser salvadoreños ustedes? ¿Y van a ser de los que van a luchar por sacar adelante este país?
She's not the first to drop out and leave.
El año pasado, primer año, yo tenía 42 alumnos. Esa sección ha quedado ahorita con 22 alumnos. La mayoría han emigrado para Estados Unidos. Aquí en la escuela, si usted preguntara, Le aseguro que de 100 niños le sale poner un porcentaje de unos 35 a 40 niños que están con la abuela, tía o un pariente y que no están con los papás porque están en Estados Unidos. A veces lo conocen por fotografías nada más.
Uno quiere lo mejor siempre para sus hijos. Y por eso es de que estoy tomando un riesgo con ellas.
Clarice had hoped to bring her daughters to California sometime in 2017. Then came Donald Trump.
Si él llega a ganar, él sí va a cumplir todo lo que dice, pues se va a poner más duro. Pues todo el mundo estamos aterrorizados a que él vaya a ganar.
She and her two sons, Santos and Edgar, all smuggled themselves into the U.S., the very people who Trump wants to send home.
Con su pelo falso. Nosotros lo mandamos a picar al campo. Mandamos a trabajar, a cortar naranja, a cortar uva y... No, pues, racista, ¿quién no va a querer, tú?
They still have two places to fill at the dinner table.
Bueno, ¿estamos listos para el jale de mañana?
This man's job is to deliver Fatima and Brenda safely to their mom.
Órale pues, los vemos al rato.
He claims he has smuggled 100,000 people to the U.S. from El Salvador.
Es muy peligroso, porque si tú no pagas tu gente, posiblemente te la violan o te la matan.
They will be passed through the hands of the Zetas, Sinaloa, and Gulf cartels.
¿Tú no te sientes nada mal con tu trabajo? ¿Piensas que es
Sí me siento mal a veces, porque a veces quisiera ganar más de lo que ya gané. La mercadería del inmigrante es como la droga, que si te llega a tu destino, tú ganas.
Last year, some 800,000 Latin Americans arrived in the U.S. illegally.
¿Y cuántos pares de calcetines lleva por todo?
The girls will be picked up at dawn.
Yo le digo que...
There's just time for one last phone call.
Que no me queda más que decirles que se porten bien, que no se vayan a despegar de sus compañeros en ningún momento. Son ustedes mismas.
Vaya, mami, ya sabes, nosotros la queremos mucho. Que ya se llegó el día. ¿Verdad?
Sí.
And just like that, life as they know it is left behind for good. The girls must secretly cross the mountain frontier.
We've just left Brenda and Fatima. They're crossing illegally into Guatemala from El Salvador because Fatima doesn't have any papers. She's just 12 years old. This is the first of 3 borders that they will need to cross illegally before they reach the United States.
Fatima and Brenda are put on a bus inside Guatemala. The smuggler, hidden among the passengers. From here, a normal journey by land to the US border should take 5 days.
Y tengo velitas aquí en la casa pidiendo al Señor que me las cuide y me las traiga con viento del camino. Y ya si mis hijas vienen, pues sería mi felicidad.
It's a week since her daughters left, and Clarice has heard nothing. The smuggler is not answering his phone, and she has no way to contact them.
Desde que ya empecé a decir que me las traigo y que ya se confirma el viaje, pues ya me empiezo a sentir triste y
On her trip, she was attacked and almost raped.
no crea, para mí no es fácil esto. Pensar que a mis hijos me les puede pasar algo en el camino.
Caminamos de día y de noche Pues venía cansada. Veníamos un carro que casi ya los asfixiábamos porque unos muchachos que venían con nosotros, a él los montaron en la cabina atrás y venía uno encima de otro y uno ya se venía muriendo. Y así va, que ya se había muerto porque ya ni abría los ojos. Ellos nos miraban como si nosotros éramos perros, pero ella se puso a llorar. Y yo de ahí, como la vi llorar, ella me puse a llorar. Yo también.
Fatima and her sister were picked up by the US authorities on the border with Mexico 5 weeks after they left their home. Brenda is at an adult detention center and is claiming asylum. Her case could take months. But because her sister is under 18, she will be released to the family. At an airport in California, her mom and brothers go to meet her. Fatima left her town in El Salvador 2 months ago. She has traveled more than 3,000 miles, illegally crossed 3 borders, and waited 4 years to see her family. Now she's reached her new home, arriving just before Americans go to the polls on November the 8th.
Ya tengo a mi mami, a mis hermanos, y solo falta mi hermano.
Ya no me quiere.
Just to update you, we've learned that in the past few days, Brenda was released and was able to join the rest of the family. And that story was filmed and produced by Guillermo Galdos and Tom Walker. After the break, the disunited states of America. Here in Texas, even the rodeos are divided in the election, which has been like a bucking bronco ride from the very start. Welcome back to Dallas, divided by race, by class, by gender, by religion. America today looks more deeply divided than perhaps ever before, driven further apart by the polarizing rhetoric of this bitter election campaign. It's triggered something of a national identity crisis, even here in Republican Texas, where before the latest email scandal, Hillary Clinton was doing better in the polls than any Democrat has done for decades. Here, as I found out, even the cowboys define themselves by race. Texas, just as you'd imagine it. It's rodeo night, except this one is called Cowboys of Color.
Here comes the man, here he comes. Whoa, got something bucking up under you, young man. Hang in there.
Here the riders, as well as the audience, are almost all black. I assumed rodeos don't usually include a tribute to Prince or jiving in the dirt. My mistake. So most of the rest of the world thinks of cowboys as white. They've got that wrong.
That's the image that Hollywood has given them of the white cowboy on a big white horse and shiny silver saddle.
Not true.
Not true, drastically different.
America is much less of a melting pot than it says on the tin. The divisions are ethnic, but in this election, also very political. How many Donald Trump supporters do you think there are in this arena?
Hopefully 0. Hopefully 0.
You're not a fan?
Absolutely not. No, not at all.
So how many people here do you think will vote for Donald Trump?
Hopefully none.
Black rodeo in the heart of Texas. I love these sort of things because it shows you Texas is changing, and so is the rest of the country. And Donald J. Trump doesn't seem to be getting the message. Texas is America's second most populous state. Latinos and blacks already outnumber whites. And without the minority vote, Republicans won't find an easy way back into the real White House. That was his big idea, but his party ignored him. Over in South Dallas, it's time for worship at the Friendship West Baptist Church. Congregation all black, almost.
It's not just about who you were with or what you were feeling.
It's more show than mass, and in the pews are identical twins you need to keep an eye on. One of them could well be the first Latino president of the US. Meet the Castro twins. Joaquin in the middle is a congressman, and Julian is Obama's Secretary of Housing. Gave the keynote address at the 2012 convention and almost ran against Trump as Hillary's vice president. If he wins, if he becomes the president on the 9th of November, in the middle of the night, what will you say then? What will your community say?
I don't believe that's going to happen.
But if it did, it's possible.
Well, anything's possible.
I mean, his odds have just got better.
Then what you're going to see is, I think, a galvanization of so many people into the political process that haven't been active before. The worst thing that could happen for the Republican Party in the future is for Donald Trump to become president. Because after he's done with the presidency, there would probably no longer be a Republican Party.
The dreaming spires of Dallas. They could double up as the opening credits of The Apprentice. They pay no personal income tax in this state, whose economy is as big as Canada's. Here, business trumps politics, to coin a phrase. And somewhere down there, they're getting ready for another rodeo, except this one is all white. And the people we spoke to, men and women, all want billionaire businessman Donald Trump to clean up politics.
I love him.
You love him?
I
You
love
him?
I love him.
And why is that?
I think he's strong. I don't think he's intimidated by anybody. I think he has a lot of business sense. And I really do. I don't have any major news network channels. I don't have cable. Anything that I found out about him, I vetted on my own.
When he's not dressed as a cowboy, Lobo is a welder with his own business. Being called a redneck in your book is a badge of honor. It's not an insult.
No, rednecks are the people that work for the country. If they wasn't for redneck cowboys that grow the beef, the farmers that grow the food, and the people that writes the pencil, they wouldn't have anything to do because they're more laid back, easy going. We need people that'll stand up and work and get her hands dirty.
But Trump has never done a day's manual labor in his life.
Yes,
he lives on the Upper East Side in Manhattan in a shiny tower.
He knows how to make money, even though he loses money. He like his taxes. He knows how to get around the taxes, and that's what we need. Somebody that knows how.
And you like the fact that he's not paying his taxes?
Yeah, because it's illegal. He does the legal stuff, and Hillary does the illegal stuff. Now, what do you want?
Most of the time, most people have other things to think about than politics, like refueling at a drive-in. But this is a defining political moment, and if handled badly, America's deep divisions may be irreconcilable. Well, I'm joined now by Lawrence Jones, a radio host and commentator, a conservative, and Democrat Betty Ritchie is with me again, as well as Jenny Manning, an avid Trump supporter and a member of Texas Women for Trump. Welcome to you all. Jenny, let me start with you. If Trump becomes president, he couldn't have done this without Hillary Clinton, could he?
No.
She's his biggest asset.
No. That's the one thing I like about Trump is when he gets passionate about something, he just goes for it. He's been talking about the things that are wrong with this country for decades, and he finally just got fed up and said, I'm going to go do this. And I like that kind of person.
But he's doing well in the polls whenever he's talking about Hillary Clinton and her troubles.
Well,
it's quite negative, isn't it?
Well, it is very negative right now because she's committed a lot of crimes. That
she has not committed any crimes.
Well,
let's be clear about
she's
this.
been investigated by the FBI. And
at the moment, her assistant is being investigated, or her assistant's emails are being looked at.
No, she is
quite clear.
No. She's been investigating.
She had been investigated,
and they've reopened it.
Okay.
Actually, it was never closed because you can't close it until you say it's closed. But I think just his policies alone is why people are voting for him. It's not really what Hillary's doing. Of course, her what she's doing is
That's not what the polls
is
suggest.
helping.
The polls suggest that the people that are voting for Trump are actually voting against Hillary Clinton. And I think that's just a fact of the matter.
Let me ask you then, Betty. I mean, if she becomes president, same sort of question. She couldn't do it without Donald Trump.
Oh, I disagree with that. She
spends all her time, today I watched her speech today, she spent all her time talking about Donald Trump and how he's unfit for office.
Which is a shame. If it hadn't been for Donald Trump, she certainly could have laid out her issues, which are many. She is the most qualified
If there
person
was
to run
any
for
other
office.
Republican candidate running against Hillary Clinton right now, it would be a landslide victory.
So are you a self-hating Republican at the moment with Donald
I'm not
Trump?
a self-hating Republican. I'm a conservative. I believe in the ideology first.
But you don't like Trump as a candidate?
I don't like him as a candidate, but I don't like Hillary as well. I think both of them are bad for America.
So who are you going to vote for?
Well, we'll see when I get there.
Is it possible that you won't vote at all?
No, I'll vote. I'll do my civic duty, but there's other people in the race. There's write-in candidates. At the end of the day, I don't feel like I could put my name on either one of them at this moment, unless they change it.
I mean, across the world, we are, certainly in democracies, we are in a kind of mood of insurrection and insurgency. People want something different. The fact that one candidate is Donald Trump and the other one is Hillary Clinton, who has been around for decades, kind of, it's not a great
I think that's
nod
why,
to this country, is it?
I think that's why a lot of people want Donald Trump, because they don't want anybody that's been in politics. They're sick of the establishment and the corruption that's in
but
there.
he has been a part of politics. He's been given to both
He's
parties.
been on the other side.
No, he's been on the other side doing crony capitalist things given to both parties to benefit his own self.
And what
So
about,
that's
the
difference.
allegations that we heard today that he is in some way linked, and again, there's no investigation into this yet, but that he is in some ways linked, possibly, to Russian cyber attacks on the Democratic Party?
Well, I don't believe that.
You don't believe it?
No, I don't.
Well, then I think the FBI is looking into that.
The FBI is saying there's no credible evidence to suggest otherwise, though. The FBI is saying, though, that there's evidence that Russia is trying to disrupt the American election. Although we can speculate and say Donald Trump is a part of that, there's no evidence to suggest that.
I mean, I'm sorry, what has happened to the United States where you have a campaign where the norms are so low that you can trade insults in the way that they've been trading insults with each other?
Both of them.
You have
Yeah,
Russia
it's the same.
involved, you've got accusations of cyber attacks, you've got the whole Anthony Weiner scandal. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up if you were trying to sell movie rights to someone.
I think part of it is that we have become so partisan. We can't discuss. We cannot have a good discussion any longer. If two people get together and one is a Trump and one is a Clinton, it seems we cannot have a good discourse. And it's the same with our legislature.
I think it's up to the supporters to hold the candidates accountable. I don't think Trump supporters or Hillary Clinton supporters can say that they're not corrupt. But both of them have done things that aren't good for America, and the supporters have to admit that.
But they are both playing to the gallery, aren't they? They're both playing to the base of their party. And there seems to be very little, attempt here to persuade people from the other side to come over.
Well, that's part of what I was saying. We have become a divided country, and that's a shame.
So what happens if your guy wins next week? How will you feel? How will Democrats rally behind their commander-in-chief, or won't they?
Oh, I think that they will, because he is the president. It's the office, not the person. It'll be difficult.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Okay, and vice versa. Hillary Clinton becomes president?
I will be devastated.
You'll be devastated?
Yeah.
No, they'll say it's rigged.
Well, I do believe it's rigged in a lot of different ways. Besides the media, I mean, that's obvious.
Yeah, but the
the
electorate.
machines, I've got all kinds of videos on machines.
It was a report there was a report done on the machines right here in Dallas, Texas, and they said that it was human error, not the electorate.
Well,
I'm not saying voting fraud doesn't exist, but according to the machines, that's a false allegation.
Well, I don't know what machines you're talking about, but I got videos from all over the
Number one, if
United
you have
States.
a video inside of the voting machine, that's fraud, and that's a felony.
Well, I'll share that with you on
That's
Facebook.
a felony,
It's already
so
on
whoever
there.
took video of that can be held accountable.
So with Republicans fighting this much amongst each other, the Democrats should sail this one, shouldn't they? Maybe not. I think, okay.
No, I'm sorry. What was the question?
Never mind. We've run out of time.
I didn't-
Jenny, Betty, and Lawrence, thank you very much
Thank you
indeed.
for having us.
And tomorrow night we'll be live from New Orleans with the latest on this increasingly exciting and divided race. Until then, from Kathy in London and all of us here in Dallas, Texas, that's Channel 4 News. Have a very good evening.